So in our polling and discussions with people volunteering within the church security mission, we find that training is something that shows up as a need about 50% of the time. So myself and my team always want to assist with your needs in church security. So thank you for being here, and let's dive into the content for this session that is relative to your training needs. In this episode, we're going to look at what measures we need to take to protect ourselves or other people, maybe even our entire congregation, when someone comes in that is violent or is threatening harm or is having mental health issues. We're going to look at 2 produced clips and discuss what measures we might consider. Now, this is for discussion. I want you to think if these things were happening in your church or in front of you, and what would you do to protect yourself or others? I'm not at your church and I'm not you. So I offer this as assistance to get your thought process going. This is more about watching these videos and exploring the options and actions to take with you and or your team. So let's first talk about our options. We know we are going to be talking about a man with a knife. You can tell that from the title of this vlog. So in general, what are our options when dealing with a man with a knife, or your options? Some of you might be armed with a firearm. You may be listening and not be carrying a firearm at church. So what are you going to do? What are your options? Remember, one of the first options to consider is, do we still have time to get our people out of the room or our congregation out of the sanctuary or auditorium, whatever you call it? Evacuation is a great tool. You'll always hear me say that, and I'm more on the conservative side. Evacuate and then call the police and let them respond and handle the situation. The next option would be, obviously, if we're armed and we see him lunging or moving towards people with a knife, we might shoot to stop the threat or protect ourselves or protect our people. What is available within the spectrum between those 2 options of evacuation or using a firearm? Do you have access to chairs, maybe a metal decoration, some sort of implement, or metal rod used in holding stage curtains, a fire extinguisher? I don't know what the tools are that are around you at your church. Especially if you're not armed and you have a guy with a knife, I've got to make sure and mention run is a great option. Get away from him, especially if you're not armed. But if you're deciding to try and protect your people, then what can you use at your church? So think about that. What are your options if you're armed? What are your options if you are unarmed? If you're not choosing to go to a safe place, I always want to make sure and mention that. So, okay, let's get to the video scenarios now so that we can begin to challenge your mind. And that's what these are designed for. They're produced to get you to think about and talk about with your team what you would do based on your church, your people, what cover, what defense tools you would have, and what's available to you depending on where this is happening. So let's take a look at the first video. In this first video, you see this guy with a knife, obviously. It's a produced video. It appears he is in the front of the auditorium holding the knife at a low angle, and he is pointing. Like he might be, he looks like he might be stressed or angry. Then he brings the knife up a bit, a little more threatening. He's not near anyone. I don't see anybody around him. It appears at this point that, he's not immediately endangering anybody. He is a danger. Hopefully you're telling people at this point to get out of the auditorium. Get out of here, escape, go. If you're armed, I would assume you've got your firearm out and you're ready. But no one is in immediate danger at this point, as no one is close to the guy with the knife. Now he begins to move the knife up higher and moves it to a stabbing type handling position. More finger pointing, looks like more agitation. I would say if I was armed and at this situation, I am really on ready here. I'm really ready to go. Now he starts moving towards the stage area. He's moving, he's got the knife out in a pointing or in a offensive position, and he's moving. Where are the people? Are there people up there? And I have to think about stopping him And here is where I might have to use force. I might have to use my firearm if he's moving towards the priest or pastor or someone else on the stage. I'm also yelling at him, giving him commands, asking him, telling him to stop, asking him to drop the knife, and trying to get him to stop these things. But if he's moving towards people that haven't been able to evacuate, I've got to think about what my options are in this situation. So what are those options? What are your team's options at this point? What tools do you have available? And I hope that you'll show this to your team and discuss what you would do, whether you're an armed team or you're not an armed team. What would you all do in this situation? Don't just skip this scenario if you're not armed. It's important for us to talk about what we're going to do in these types of situations, even if we're unarmed. What other options are available? Fire extinguisher, a chair, a long pole, or some sort of long striking device. We want to use these scenarios to give your mind something to think about and practice with. Give it some material, because we don't react well under pressure unless we've practiced just a little bit, unless we've fed some material to our minds. Now, our second video, our second scenario here. A guy coming into the church with a knife. It appears he's just come through the lobby and he's coming right at you. What are you going to do? In my opinion, I would be drawing my gun and telling him to stop and put down the knife. The closer and that's if I have time, depending on how close he's getting to me. Obviously, he's coming after me, threatening me. He's got a knife out, which could kill me. It could be dangerous. The closer he gets to me, still advancing and now moving the knife to a downward stabbing hold, I would have to consider use of my firearm. And that's my opinion, not legal advice, but a strong opinion. If you are unarmed, what are you going to do? And again, I mentioned run is a great option. Or what do you have to defend yourself or others with? This is a great video to use for a team discussion. Again, what are your options at church? Escape routes, defense tools, fire extinguishers. Where are those fire extinguishers? This scenario is unfolding fast, not much space or distance between you and the subject with the knife, and he is closing that distance. And there's nothing wrong with running away. I want to keep mentioning that. But if you choose to stay and try to protect others, what are the tools you have available? If you're watching this on YouTube, leave us some comments down in the comment section so that all of us looking at this video can hear what you would do. What your circumstances are certainly is important at your church. And are you armed or unarmed? Let's have a conversation about this. Let's share some ideas. And what other tools do you have to use to escape or stop this guy with a knife? It may be a tool that someone else is not thinking about. So leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you in the comment section here in YouTube. And as always, I thank you so much for joining me today and taking the time to get better at protecting your people and your church. And I hope that you stay safe and secure until I can catch up with you again next time.